my amazing colleague here, Mark, who will be on shortly. We really appreciate your engagement, and it is so inspiring to see all of you here today as we continue to build K14 pathways, opening doors of opportunity and creating a future where every learner in our region can thrive in education, work, and life. Before we begin the engagement session, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude to the team who has spent hours putting this together for all of you. Starting with Mark, our K14 tab, for his leadership and ongoing commitment to this really important work. Our key talent team of exceptional pathway coordinators who will be supporting today's session and remain committed to supporting you as you move projects forward. Dr. Childers and Hatha, our selection committee co-chairs, for their leadership in guiding this critical process. Luke Meyer from the Centers of Excellence, and Rachel from WestEd for ensuring that we are data-driven and well-informed as we design and evaluate our work. This session will highlight Round 8 funding priorities, review regional labor market needs, and really provide a space for collaboration as we strengthen partnerships to ensure K14 alignment. Together, we are shaping pathways that open doors of opportunity, close equity gaps, and empower students to thrive in high wage, high demand careers in an ever changing global economy. Your partnership makes this all possible. Thank you once again for being here. We look forward to an energizing and productive session. And with that, I am honored to turn it over to Mark.
Thanks so much, Dr. McEachin. So I am Mark Benaj. I am the K14 TAP here at the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, and I'm thrilled to see so many faces here this morning. And I know there'll be more watching the recording after this is over, and some of you coming back and doing both, here today and also watching pieces of it where you want to go back and review some of the information. To echo Dr. McEachin, I'm tremendously grateful to have all of the support here of the key talent team. Our pathway coordinators are amazing. I see a lot of career pathway specialists in the room already from our college, from the college side, a lot of other partners, a lot of LEAs I've known. And I really hope that if you are new to this process, if this is your very first time encountering the K12 Strong Workforce process and it seems daunting, that you, first of all, know that you're welcome here and that we're really here to support everyone in this process. So whether you've gotten grants a few years in a row, or you've had a grant denied once, or if you've never even applied, we just welcome you and hope that today gives you the toolkit you need to know where you're focusing, to understand the priority careers, the priority sectors, and to really build the whole toolkit of understanding the RFA, how to write to the prompts and rubrics, and how to tell your story about these pathways of opportunity that you're creating for your students. So I'm just going to go to explain very briefly what today looks like. I appreciate you being here because it is a lot. It's a big commitment, and I know that you're doing it because you're committed to creating these opportunities for your students. We're going to start with an overview of what is K12 Strong Workforce, and then do a deep dive into the RFA itself and really help you understand what they're asking for in the RFA. As part of that session, in the first hour, we'll get a lot of granular detail. I think this is going to be very helpful this year, granular detail about the fiscal side, right? What's an allowable expense? What's not? How do you frame things? And how do you think about the framing? How do you think about the fiscal thing? Because we know that even if you are awarded, there can be questions later about allowability or questions about what changes you make or things like that. So we're lucky to have Gray here with us today to walk us through the fiscal side as well. We'll have a little break after this first section, and then we'll come back for a deep dive into labor market information, some data, regional priorities, another little tiny break after that section. And we'll have some time for you and for the districts and community college folks to go into separate breakout spaces. Pathway coordinators will be in each of those. And so you can bring any questions you want. You can hear about the work that's happening in your college district. And you'll also hear about well, what is my college district along the way? If you're coming from a from a first-time perspective, you might be wondering, well, which one am I? What's my closest college, or how can I figure that out? We have a map for you. We can help you break that down really quickly. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to one of my colleagues, Bonnie Nahar, who will take it away with an overview. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Next slide. Yeah, so we'll get started with a background and overview. So in 2016, the state of California invested in the creation and distribution of the Strong Workforce Program grant. And in 2018, additional funding was allocated through the Strong Workforce Program grant to K12 local education agencies to create, support, and/or expand high-quality CTE at the K12 level. Next slide. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. So now we're looking at the K12 Strong Workforce Program, their joint effort that is between the California Community College Chancellor's Office and the California Department of Education. So the goal is to support K12 local education agencies in developing, expanding, and enhancing career technical education courses, programs of study, and pathways with an equity lens to prepare students for a seamless transition from high school to post-secondary education and living wage careers. Next slide. The metrics. So the K12 SWP metrics that measure, evaluate outcomes. The first one is aligned with LEA College and Career Indicator Dashboard. So is the number and percentage of students who complete 2 or more CTE courses in high school in the same program of study. The next one is CTE courses include early college credit, work-based learning, or third-party certification. And the next measure is the percentage of students in the program who graduate from high school. And the last measure is assess the number and percentage of program participants who enroll in California Community College within 1 year of leaving secondary school. Next slide. LARC has identified 8 priority sectors that are data informed to produce high wage, high growth occupations over the next 4 years. And so as you see here, these are the priority sectors. So LARC's regional strategy is shaped by the California Community College's Vision 2030, the Governor's Roadmap for Community Colleges, and the state's Career Education Master Plan, where we see new and emerging priorities in AI and climate. And you can refer to the LARC regional plan for more in-depth analysis. And so I wanted to also point out that the LARC regional plan has made updates specifically on each of the top industry sectors. For example, advanced manufacturing has a brief description on the impact of AI in that specific industry. So I highly encourage to refer to the regional plan as a great resource to use to reference for Round 8 applications. Next slide. We have the state and regional ecosystem. So here's just a visual to show you. At the top, we have the California Department of Education and the California Community College Chancellor's Office. Within that is the K12 districts, including Los Angeles County Office of Education, with over 125 districts in the LA region. And on the other hand, we have community colleges. We also have on here the LARC Regional Consortium, which includes Regional Chair Dr. Narne Makijan and K14 Technical Assistance Provider Mark Banaj, along with the K12 Pathway Coordinators and their counterparts at the community college, which is our Career Pathway Specialist. And this is just a visual just to show you how these parts come together to collaborate with these joint efforts. And so now I will hand it over to Candice.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Now we're going to go over the LA regional investments throughout the years. So here is a comprehensive overview of funding trends and application activities over the years. Annually, there are between 30 and 42 applications awarded, which is great. And in the sunny yellow section, you'll notice a fluctuation of our allocations. We did experience a slight decline in round 5, but since then we have stabilized and we've just seen growth. As we look ahead to round 8, the funding allocation is over 23 million. And as we move forward, it is important to acknowledge how these strategic funds have facilitated the development of K-14 pathways, work-based learning initiatives, and certificate programs that effectively prepare students for both college and career opportunities. Next slide, please. So K-12 strong workforce, their primary goals are two goals. And the first goal is to foster essential K-14 collaboration and also to develop and implement high-quality K-14 pathways. There are resources for grant writing. If you're writing a grant for the first time, we're here to support you. The LARC website offers several resources to assist you. One great feature is that all of the projects are anchored on this site. By clicking on the provided link, which you'll receive this slide deck after, you will be able to access all of the round 7 projects. Please note that all funded projects can be found on the website. So previous rounds, but we're highlighting round 7 here. We like to showcase these projects from across the region. Each project includes a brief synopsis and gives you insight how the prompts were answered. If you're interested in viewing the actual application, they are publicly accessible. You can contact your K-14 pathway coordinator and they can assist you. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to turn it over to KP, and she's going to go over the request for application. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candace. So now we're going to go ahead and go over the round 8 request for application. We'll start by reviewing the key dates. These key dates can be found in the RFA in pages 19 through 20. As you already know, the K12 SWP application was released on August 18. We will have a NOVA platform training posted for round 8 eventually. However, round 7 is still accessible in case you need support or would like to go through what does NOVA look like, where do I input the data, how do I submit, all those fun questions. On August 27, we had the Live Bidders Conference. We went ahead and hyperlinked the recording for your convenience in case you want to review that. That bidder conference was given directly by the Chancellor's office. September 5th, which we're all here today, and the LARC regional engagement. Thank you all for coming. And then September 12th, if you have any questions regarding the application, you're welcome to submit that by that day to the Chancellor's office. The deadline for the K12 SWP application is October 10th by 5 p.m. I cannot stress that enough. Please make sure you submit your application by 5 p.m. Once it's submitted, there can be no edits made. It's already in the system and we will have to move forward with what is in the application. Please, 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 I highly encourage you to set up a notification or a calendar invite to make sure you submit prior to 5 p.m. because there may be some technical issues that you may experience because everyone's trying to submit at the same time. So please be mindful with that. And once again, the application's due October 10th. November 21st is when everyone will receive their preliminary awards. On December 19th, you are able to submit appeals. Those appeals will be emailed directly to Dr. McKeeshan. By January 1st, that is when the the round 8 project term begins. And then by March 2026, LARC will initiate those subcontracting processes. And by May of next year, you'll go ahead and be able to start spending that money. Here are some important RFA documents that are provided to you by the Chancellor's Office and LARC. In the first bucket, we have all the resources that you're able to use to be able to help you during the grant writing process. There are some key templates that I really encourage you as LEAs to use, especially as you're writing out. I know some folks want to start writing on NOVA right away. However, I highly encourage you from personal experience and from past experiences that you go ahead and write that on a Google Doc and transfer these templates onto a Google Doc and then submit it into NOVA afterwards. It'll just help because there can be some technical difficulties, right? In case you're interested in learning more about Vision 2030 so that you can integrate that within your application, there is a webinar hyperlinked on there, along with the bidders conference. If you need a sample template of what that letter of assurance looks like, or even the letter of support from the colleges, please know that the Chancellor's Office also provides a template link. For LARC, we've actually gone ahead and created a spreadsheet for you all in case you're curious to know who your contact at the college is to request that letter of support. Later, during the breakout sessions, they'll dive a little bit deeper into that for each college. If you need indirect guidance, please use our LARC document as reference. It is about 4%. However, there is a breakdown that can further assist you to figure out what that indirect looked like for you. There's also additional NOVA application training videos. If you need help with the industry crosswalk from the K12 to the community college system, we have that also available for you, along with this video recording that will be placed and hyperlinked later in the slide deck and the slide deck itself. Some more information about NOVA. For those of you that are returning, you may already have an account, and that's amazing. You're already ahead of the game. For those of you who are returning and may have some leadership changes, please make sure to review and update any stuff on there to make sure the appropriate leads and roles are given to the appropriate people. If you do not have an account, please go ahead and move forward and request a NOVA account. This is hyperlinked onto the PowerPoint. There's also a training video on how to use NOVA and navigate it if you need additional support. Please make note of the different NOVA roles. We'll go into it a little bit deeper later in the presentation, and we'll explain each one. If you encounter any software technical difficulties, unfortunately, we're not able to directly support you. It has to be the help desk, and we're happy to help you navigate that in case you see a fluke in the system or you're unable to pull up your application and stuff like that. We can help you work with their help desk. And then in case you're new to NOVA and just want to figure out how to navigate it on your own, there is a sandbox link available for you that you can play with. So RFA section 1. For our rounding A allocations, which can be found in page 8 of the RFA, Los Angeles was allocated 23.9 million this year, which is a little bit less than we got last year. And then for the funding levels, which can also be located in page 8 of the RFA, if you're wondering how much money you're able to request, please know that it's all based on ADA. So when you're looking at those numbers, make sure to look at your ADA and see where that falls or lies under. If you have anything under 10,000, for example, you may only request up to $1 million. And then I will hand it over to my next PC.
Thank you very much. Who can apply for the money? Eligible K-12 strong workforce applicants can be a school district, a county office of education, a charter school, or a regional occupation center or program, ROCP. And LEAs are limited to no more than 3 projects as a lead or funded partner. Next slide. Eligible K-12 strong workforce program applicants must partner with at least one community college. The LEA, the lead, and all K-12 partner agencies shall be located within the LA region for our purposes. And each LEA that is a lead or a K-12 partner agency on the application must engage in regional efforts to align workforce, employment, and education services. You must use the current LA regional plan to inform and direct CTE efforts, and you must report data to support and evaluate the program, including demographic data used to evaluate progress in closing equity gaps. And now I'll turn it over to our co-chair, Audrey.
Thank you, Mike. Audrey Childers, Selection Committee Co-Chair, along with Hafta Parrish, who's also online. For the Selection Committee role, it's in the RFA. We're on page 10 right now. It's also starts on page 9. Each regional consortium has a K-12 Selection Committee responsible for reviewing all eligible LEA applications that are requesting K-12 SWP funds, and that's defined in Ed Code. So the K-12 Selection Committee makes all decisions within the region related to selecting grant recipients and awarding specific funding amounts. Per Ed Code, when we determine grant recipients, the Selection Committee shall consider past performance, and I'll get more into that when we get to the selection criteria. Next slide, please. For round 8, the Selection Committee has created criteria for award decisions that is linked in the RFA. We make decision based on the merits of the proposed project, proportionality of the request, alignment with the intent of legislation, funding applications that best meet the priorities of the region as set by the regional plan and local labor market demand. If the total amount requested is higher than the region's allocation, then we will make decisions based on our selection criteria. And is it possible to go to that criteria? It's linked here. Thank you. So this is available to you through the RFA, and as Mark mentioned, this slide deck will be available to you after the regional engagement session today. So the selection committee every year looks at our selection criteria, and this is our Los Angeles region criteria. So we have a few givens at the top, and we've been over them. The allocation by ADA in Los Angeles, since we're a large region with large LEAs, we often find that we have more applicants with more than 550 ADA. In that case, we do consider the ADA criteria here and try to award 4% to less than ADA of less than 140, 8% to ADA between 141 and 550. However, there is a possibility, and it's a strong possibility, that we won't have enough LEAs to hold to those exact percentages. So it's possible that more than 88% of our regional funding will go to LEAs that have an ADA of 551 or greater. That's the given. Our criteria. So the LARC Selection Committee established, it should say round 8. Let me make sure that yeah, and that's just a typo because this is going to be as I continue to read the round 8 criteria. First-time applicants are awarded according to what the RFA says. This year, it's 1 extra point, I believe, for new LEAs that have never applied or never gotten funding as a partner or lead. Low ADAs, I just said, where feasible, we will try to respect those percentages, but it is possible that more than 88% of our funding would be awarded to ADA of 551 or higher. Single or multiple applications. So according to the RFA, each LEA can apply for up to 3 K12 SWP grants as a funded partner or lead. If that occurs, which honestly it always does in our region, there are some LEAs that are on more than one application, then we will apply this criteria. If the total ask is more than the total allocation, the selection committee will attempt to fund 1 eligible application for each LEA, lead LEA, prior to awarding a second or third eligible application to the same lead LEA. This may mean that in some cases, single applications with lower eligible scores will be prioritized over multiple applications with higher scores. If the total ask is more than the total allocation, no single LEA will be awarded more than 15% of the total LARC K12 SWP allocation. That means that, so this year our allocation is 23,932,350. If you calculate 15% of that, no LEA, let me make sure if it says lead, no single LEA would be eligible in our region to get more than, it's about 3.5 million. You can do the math. So that's one of our selection criteria in our region. And then finally, the committee may take into consideration per ADA funding, including ADA of less than excluding ADA of less than 140, to safeguard equitable distribution of funds. We have a number of very large ADA districts and LEAs in our region. And so we are trying to safeguard and make sure that students are treated equitably. Selection criteria 4, selection committee members may include the following considerations in their deliberation. Equity, the selection committee will consider and may prioritize eligible applications that are heavily informed by career readiness indicator data that serve a significant percentage or number of underrepresented students. We will prioritize past performance, and it's defined as follows. The selection committee will review unspent funds from previous K12 SWP projects. That means that in the grant application, and this is word to the wise, the LEAs are allowed to provide an explanation of challenges that led to underspending previous grant funds. So if you're an LEA that has had that occur, please explain it in the grant application. Otherwise, we won't know why it happened. So the second criteria here under B, the selection criteria will take into account late or missing NOVA reporting and or past grant closeouts submitted 30 or more days late. So if you've been late on reporting by 30 or more days, again, you do have the opportunity to explain what happened in the grant application. Criteria C, non-duplicative. The selection committee may compare an LEA's eligible application to past projects, and we may prioritize applications that are not duplicative of past funded projects. And that's in the RFA, that if you are applying and you've gotten past grants, make sure you're not like adopting a template and using it year after year. We do notice that. So make sure that if you are expanding on a past project, that is clear in your application, that it is not duplicative. Criteria 5, funding amounts. The selection committee may award less than the requested amount to eligible LEAs in order to maximize funding in the region. The process is described below. For number 1, spoiler alert, number 1 has not happened in our region yet. However, it says right here, if the total ask is less than or equal to the total allocation, fund all eligible applications. If the allocation is not exhausted, we will offer a second regional process for LEAs to apply for the remaining funds. That process is actually spelled out in the RFA page 8 or 9. 9. And then criteria 2 under number 5 is what has happened to us all rounds so far. So if the total ask is greater than the total allocation, the selection committee will apply the criteria in sections 1 through 4 of this document. Then fund down the slate until the allocation is exhausted. That means that some applications scoring 75 or above may not be funded if the allocation is exhausted prior to reaching them. With that, I'll hand it back to Candace.
Thank you, Audrey. Now we're going to go over partnerships, which is very important and beneficial. We have K12 partner agencies, and then we also have our collaborative partners. Now with the K12 partner agencies, which is non-mandatory, it is to partner with a K12 district. It is great, but it's not mandatory. But then on the other end, it is also, it is an increasing focus of the state. So it emphasizes collaboration to address regional needs and effectively leverage resources to meet student requirements. It's essential to be aware that if you're utilizing ADA from another district, they must receive funds and services. Within the NOVA system, you'll need to allocate a minimum of $1 to that particular district to utilize their ADA. But don't worry, we're not going to require backup. The documentation for that $1, this allocation is simply a logistical necessity for your system to process this admission. However, we will monitor the delivery of the services to ensure that the dollar impact is accounted for, even if it's not monetary. The second category involves collaborative partnerships, which focuses on the complexity of integrating your application while leveraging regional resources and entities. And we have them listed on this slide deck. And we know that we are always looking at the partnerships and the business organizations and other agencies around Los Angeles when you're writing this grant that are beneficial and can contribute to your application. Next slide, please. A required component is a partnership with a community college. This is a critical element for the proposal, and you need to have at least one community college district included in your grant. More partners are not necessarily better, instead, but seek depth and meaningful connection to your plan. If you're unsure of your community college district or location of your LEA, local education agency, within this ecosystem, you can use our map to pinpoint that information. Now I'm going to turn it over to Giovanna Santiago, Pathway Coordinator for Pasadena Community College District. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. So I'm going to briefly touch on the RFA section 2. And again, this section is not necessarily anything new. I'm just going to expand and reiterate some of the points that other pathway coordinators have already mentioned. So if we could go, yes. So like KP mentioned, this slide will also give you information on Nova Access. And this is what I suggest, even if you plan or don't plan on applying, I do recommend that you create an account in case there's any technical issues. You can, we can fix those before it's too late or before the application closes. And as of this morning, we do know that if you've tried to actually apply within Nova, it's not open yet. We do, and we are communicating with the Chancellor's office daily for updates. So you should be able to open that up by next week, I think. So again, like KP mentioned, some of these definitions I'm going to expand on a little bit, especially for those of you that are new. I would recommend really using and taking a look at the sandbox because it's a safe place to practice. It's completely risk-free. It doesn't connect to your live application. So if there's anything, it'll delete itself. It's a great way to just become familiar with the dropdowns and the way that Nova looks. So on the right side, we'll go over a little bit on what project lead is, the alternates, contributors, and viewers, which is really important. So I'll touch on that. So a project lead is the most important role within Nova. So this person is the primary contact. They carry the accountability for the project, and they are the only ones that can actually submit the application and other important documents. Now, the lead alternate are backup editors. They have access to editing within the plan. They just can't submit. And also important to note that Nova communication usually goes to the lead and not the alternate. So definitely decide within your district who that is going to be. And as far as contributor and reporter, that role is a little bit more limited. So these individuals can help input information. And this usually I would suggest is like different people within the district, like the business office that help you with the budgets that need to see applications and budgets. And then there's also viewer, which is read only. And this is usually for like partner agencies if you are planning to have them just so that they can see where the project is going. Really important to know, if there's a lot of staffing changes within your LEA, make sure to make those changes within Nova. That way you can update as needed, and you reassign those roles without delays. Okay, next slide. Okay, so like Audrey mentioned, another important piece of the application is prior performance. So the K12 selection committee always considers how grantees have performed in the past before awarding new funds. So when you log into Nova, the system will ask you if you've been awarded before, and then they'll ask for detailed information on outcomes specifically and successes from previous awards. So this is your chance to showcase like the impact that prior grants have provided. So not just like activities, but actual results, right? So it's also, like Audrey mentioned, critical to address any unspent funds, because if it was out of your control, we would like to know that. If there's money that wasn't fully utilized, explain the steps and why you think you can address those with new funds. And then remember that past performance is especially important because K12 SWP funds are designed to expand and create new pathways, not to sustain existing ones through supplanting. So showcasing that you've used prior funds for growth and not just to backfill pathways. So again, if you've received funding before, this section is really just to demonstrate outcomes. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this section, I'm going to go over the non-scored sections of the rubric, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague to go over the other sections. So if you remember from last year, it was actually on a 1.1 scale, so it went up a little bit, and that has to do with the positive considerations. So we'll go over through the first section. And just important to note that the selection committee your application is read through different people just to ensure fairness and objectivity. So they have a rubric, but they also have a different lens for viewing things. And that's why we have different stakeholders in that selection committee to be able to speak to your application. So again, since the application, it's based off of 105 points, the minimum average is still 75. And of course, we want you to be way above the 75. And since the regional allocation has decreased, of course, the competitiveness of your application has to also increase. So we want to aim to score above that threshold. Okay, let's go. Thank you. Okay, so for statement of assurance. Statement of assurance. Yeah, so the statement of assurance is really for school districts that are going to partner with other partners. So this usually has to do with district like ROPs or other districts that are partnering and they're assuming the responsibility. So that's what that stands for. And the signed letter of commitment from a community college is you have a requirement. We do have a link for you, and usually it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. I know some of them can be faster, but we don't want you to wait. And we will have our college partners at the end of this to kind of communicate and ask all the questions that you need, or if you need to partner with a different community college for this specific pathway, we will have those individuals available for you. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague.
All right, everyone, thank you again. So now we're going to dive into the rubric. I know the font looks a little bit small, but I know in the next 2 slides, it'll be a little bit bigger. We've also linked the rubric, the scoring rubric onto the slide. Once you receive the PowerPoint, you'll be able to locate that. But as far as positive considerations, think of it as our bonus opportunities. There are 13 core application points and 3 possible bonus points as well. So please go on to the next slide. All right, so for the core rubric, again, it's just more of making sure that we have the consideration of unduplicated pupils, addressing higher than average dropout rates, or operating in high unemployment areas. As we all know, we want to make sure that we're engaging with the regional plan and any LMI data that we have as well. Go on to the next slide, please. Next slide. I wanted to also touch on the additional positive considerations. So again, this is a continuation from last year with the new high school pathways. We want to make sure that we're talking and aligning with the Vision 2030 field of STEM, health education, early education, and or climate sustainability. I do understand that we might not have pathways in climate sustainability, but we want to make sure that if there's some kind of pathway that ties in that climate criteria, that is also noted in the application, along with the new, if you are a new LEA applying for the K12, that will also be an additional point. And of course, the alignment to Vision 2030. So we did include the early college credit, youth apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeships, AI literacy. Again, AI literacy might not be a pathway, but if there's any kind of tie where you're connecting AI into a pathway or the project that you're writing for, that's also included, and that can also give you that extra point there. Next slide. All right, so for the problem statement, again, we're referring to the rubric. We want to make sure that if you're on the point of writing, you have that rubric next to you, because this is the rubric that we are observing for scoring. So if you want to reach those max points, you want to make sure that you're hitting each criteria. So again, referencing that regional plan, the labor market information, including some type of wage and demand data for relevant industries, and of course, directly tying the challenges and needs to the proposed solutions as well. So again, reviewers are using this rubric. So if you're writing down, make sure that you have this rubric on hand so that you're able to grow on your problem statement. Next slide. And I will now pass it on to Mike. Next slide.
Thank you. Okay, project objectives is the next section, and it's worth 20 points. That's a lot of points on a 100-point scale. So you want to make sure you're having clear, concrete objectives that address the issues in the problem statement and how the local education agency plans to use the SWP funds. But you want to be very concise and avoid statements of lofty goals. Remember, we're identifying measurable outcomes that align with career pathways, programs to community colleges, and lead to high wage, high demand career opportunities. We're trying to close equity gaps and have the students complete high skill wage CT opportunities and include student services such as tutoring, mentoring by professionals, and work-based learning. And we want to explain how the objectives respond to the needs described in the problem statement. And we want to make sure it's aligned with the Region Strong Workforce Program regional plan and the labor market information. And remember, you only have 2,500 characters for these sections. So you want to make sure that you're getting to the point. Kind of what I did here with the highlight sections. I eliminated some of the lofty speak there just to get to the point. Next slide. And the work plan is worth 40 points. Okay, so we have the problem statement, right? And that informs the objective. What's your plan? And now what are you going to do? Okay, and that's what the work plan is all about. It's worth the most points of any other section, 40, and it has 4 possible K12 strong workforce strategies. One is curriculum and instruction. Another is college and career exploration. Another is post-secondary transition. And another section could be work-based learning. It is acceptable for the proposed work to focus on only one strategy. Your application will be scored on only the strategy that you select. Next slide. And your application will be scored on only the strategy you select. For each K14 pathway quality strategy selected, the following narratives are required and will be scored individually. Items 1 and 2 below will be answered for each strategy selected. So for each strategy, you got to describe the work and project activities to be funded by K12 SWP and be specific. You know, so somebody's going to be reading this and saying, well, what are these guys going to do? They might have been intrigued by your problem statement and your plan, but now how are you going to execute that plan? And you also want to describe and provide a list of expected measurable outcomes. This whole program is outcome based. So how are you going to meet those outcomes? And if you do have more than one strategy, you only have to do these 3, 4, and 5 once, because that's going to be applicable to all the other strategies. So you have to do it for the first one that you do, but you only have to do it once. You have to identify the partner roles and responsibilities. You have to identify the total number of students, unduplicated headcount, and or the teachers to be served, and describe the way they will be impacted by each strategy. And you want to describe the student support activities designed to improve access to and completion of high skill, high wage CTE opportunities for disproportionately impacted students. Vina, I think is next.
Thank you, Mike. So I'll be walking us through the scoring rubric for the budget and budget narrative, which is worth a maximum of 10 points. There's 2 key parts, each worth up to 5 points. One is the budget and narrative, and then the second is the matching funds. In terms of budget and narrative, the application must include a budget by object code for the lead LEA and each K12 partner if applicable, along with a narrative explaining how the funds will be used. And to earn 5 points, a strong response shows that the expenditures are reasonable, clearly described, detailed, and aligned with the project objectives and the work plan. So alignment here is critical. And then for matching funds, the application must include both the description and the source of the matching funds. And a strong response ensures the description and the source of financial match funds support the project objectives in the work plan. So again, alignment across the full application and the budget is essential. You can find details around the budget on pages 33 to 35 of the RFA. And in general, as Lali mentioned before, it's really recommended that you reference the rubric as you're drafting your application to ensure you're addressing all the required components and positioning your proposal to earn the maximum highest possible score. Next slide. So next, I'd like to highlight the RFA supports available to help ensure a successful application. Next slide. All of the links on this slide will be shared with you after today's presentation, so you'll be able to click on them. But the first is the LARC Round 8 Resource Hub. It provides really a centralized access to the RFA, key dates, guidance, and other resources. And this should be your go-to for anything related to the Round 8 application. The next is the letter of commitment contact list, which I think both KP and Gio mentioned earlier, provides contacts for each community college, along with timelines and notes on processing those support letters. The next is around workshops and webinars. So we've had some regional and statewide workshops already, and there are more coming up. The first is a link to the K12 SWP Bidders Conference webinar that took place last week. And then in addition, there's a link to a grant writing resource flyer, which outlines some of the amazing work that Dr. Wells put together last year, as well as 3 upcoming webinars. And you can see the 3 descriptions of what those are there, as well as the dates and times for those webinars. You can click on the registration links that are included in the titles here to register for those if you're interested. And then the last is our K12 Pathway Coordinator list and office hours. Each of us are hosting drop-in office hours. You're welcome to attend any session for any additional support that you might need. And next slide, please. This is just all of our contact information for the Key Talent team. It includes contact information along with community colleges that each of us supports. And on the slide, there's a link that takes you directly to the landing page for easy access. Next slide. And finally, I just want to share some of the ways that our team can support your grant writing efforts for this round. These are just some of the things that we can do. We can facilitate connections between colleges and LEAs, provide clarification on the RFA, share labor market information and assist with data analysis, support with CTE and dual enrollment data analysis, assist with K14 pathway mapping, connect practitioners with best practices. So for example, dual enrollment MOUs, work-based learning examples, course curriculum, and lastly, help to review your application to ensure alignment with the grant rubric. So our goal is really just to make sure you have the resources and the connections and guidance that you need for a strong competitive application. And with that, I'll now turn it over to Gray Rako, our fiscal guru, who is going to take you through a fiscal training.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much, team, for all of your efforts and support you're providing today. For those who are new to this space, I'm Gray Rako, our grant project coordinator for the Los Angeles Regional Consortium. If you could go ahead a couple of slides. I do have my contact information here. For the consortium, I'm responsible for coordinating grant and operational efforts, which does include K12 Strong Workforce. So I'm here as a fiscal resource for you. Always feel free to reach out. I have my email and my phone number available here on the slide for you. So please reach out with any questions or concerns you may have. Could you go to the next slide? Today, I do want to provide a little bit of a background on what it means for Pasadena Area Community College District to serve as the fiscal agent for the Los Angeles Regional Consortium. As the fiscal agent, we are responsible for ensuring that all of our K12 Strong Workforce and Key Talent funding, which once again is our Pathway Coordinator host funding, we need to ensure that all of that funding is expended and reported according to all grant requirements, as well as our fiscal agent policies. So it's one of our primary responsibilities as the fiscal agent. Additionally, we provide technical support to all of our internal and external stakeholders in a variety of capacities, and we engage in the convenings to support stakeholders in successfully implementing and reporting awarded funds. In practicality, this looks like us reviewing all budgets and expenditures to ensure allowability prior to issuing that final payment. We also approve and process all of your budget modification requests, and we develop trainings and resources for stakeholders. Always feel free to reach out if there's anything that you think is missing from our library. If you could go to the next slide. Today, we're just going to be doing a very brief overview of some fiscal items. We wanted to ensure that for round 8, you really have all of the tools needed to complete a budget that really has the necessary details that we'll need in the future if it's awarded, and that also helps the selection committee when they're reviewing your application as well. So we'll go over the budget, different details that are required, examples, talk a little bit about allowability and some common errors we see in budgets. We'll also do a very brief match overview and let you know about some available resources that we have for you. Next slide. One more. So first of all, I just wanted to quickly go through some of the different object codes, the information that we're looking for in your submitted NOVA budget, as well as some examples of what those budget entries might look like and some resources available for those different sections. So on this first page, we have the 1,000 to 3,000 object codes. So that includes salaries as well as benefits. For both the 1,000 and 2,000 categories, there's 4 primary pieces of information that we're looking for when we're reviewing your NOVA budget. We do need to know the position title or the anticipated position title if the position has not yet been created. We also need to be aware of if the position is an existing position or if it will be new as of the start of the grant, which for round 8 will be January 2026. We additionally need to know what percentage of the salary is going to be charged to the grant. For instance, 50% charged to the grant, 100% charged to the grant, or if there's overtime or added hours. And we also need a small description of responsibilities of the individual that are going to be related to the grant. And I have examples for the 1,000, 2,000 categories of what could be a potential budget entry that would meet all of those requirements. We also have a resource available that's linked on this slide that helps walk you through what's considered an allowable salary for K-12 strong workforce. And this slide gives you just the image from that resource. There is some flexibility as well. Always work with our fiscal team if you have any questions, but this does provide you with that basic overview as you're considering inclusion of a salary in your application, just to understand if it's likely for it to be determined to be allowable by our fiscal team. So I'll just quickly walk through this with you all. So we start with this position that we're considering, including in our grant application. First, we have to look at whether it's going to be charged 100% to the grant or if there's just going to be an allocable cost charged to the grant. If it is charged 100% to the grant, this is where it comes in that we need to double check if it's a new or an existing position. If it is existing, that is determined to be unallowable typically. If it's a new position, we then need to look at whether it is a general operational function, which is generally going to be supplanting and unallowable, or if it's a role that is directly tied to accomplishing the work plan activities, which is generally going to be allowable. If you are charging just the allocable cost to the grant, which could be 50%, then we do once again want to look at if it's a general or operational function, in which case it would be considered to be supplanting. But otherwise, if it is a role directly tied to the work plan activities, that generally will be considered allowable. And if you could actually go to the previous slide. I just wanted to quick also reference our 3,000 category. So that's all benefits. We do just need to know what positions are going to be charged to the grant as well as the benefits rate or total. Once again, I have an example of what that might look like. And now we can go ahead. And here we have the 4,000 to 7,000 object codes. For the 4,000 to 6,000 categories, which ranges from supplies to capital outlay, we do just really need to have a detailed description of what your anticipated purchases will be. We will have to come back to if it just includes language such as equipment or supplies. We are verifying that anything included in your budget is allowable. So we need all the details that you can provide. We know that sometimes you're still figuring that out, but any estimates that you have are very helpful for us to ensure that we are determining that to be allowable before you go ahead with proceeding with that purchase. And then for our 7,000 object code, which is the indirect costs, I want to remind all of you that we do have a limit of 4% of direct costs for that indirect. It is not 4% of the total awarded amount. There's a calculation that needs to be utilized to determine your maximum indirect that can be claimed. We have a guide available that's linked here. For that budget information, it can be as simple as the percent that you are planning on claiming if if any. So that doesn't need to be detailed, but we do want to ensure that anything on there doesn't exceed what is actually allowable for your indirect. Next slide. And I also want to highlight a couple of common challenges when we do go through the budgets and review them. I've mentioned before the insufficient details. If anything is listed as just equipment or just salaries, we do need to go back and get additional information. So we appreciate any efforts to ensure that there's sufficient details about your plans. Going back to salaries, we sometimes will have supplanting salaried positions, like an existing administrative position included, which would be determined to be unallowable. So we do recommend following that guide that we showed earlier to ensure that any positions do align with what K12 Strong Workforce allows for positions funded by the grant. We also sometimes see unallowable purchases like general classroom supplies, so please ensure that you're always verifying any resources regarding allowability. And then once again, just indirect exceeding that allowable budget of 4% of direct costs. Next slide. And we did just want to provide a little bit of background on match as well. As I'm sure many of you are familiar, there are two different types of match. For ROCPs, it is a 1-to-1 match. So for every $1 awarded, we do need to have $1 of match. I do want to note that the ROCP does need to be the lead LEA on the application. For all other LEAs, it is a standard 2-to-1 match. So for every $1 awarded, we do need $2 of match. The RFA does include some information regarding allowable and unallowable match sources. For all of the allowable match sources, these are examples. It is not extensive. As long as the match source that you're looking at isn't something that would fall under that unallowable match source list, then it is determined to be allowable. One example, we have gotten some questions about that, is GSPP that is considered to be allowable since it doesn't fall under the unallowable match source, as long as you're not utilizing it for a CTAG or other concurrent K12 Strong Workforce grant or application. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns about the match sources you're planning on utilizing, but this is just a general guide for that. Next slide. And we also wanted to highlight just some available resources that may be really helpful to you as you're completing your Round 8 application, particularly the budget. All of our fiscal resources are available on our K12 Strong Workforce fiscal webpage, which is linked to this slide. I also linked a few of the critical resources, such as our unallowable and allowable activities document that utilizes RFA language to explain what is allowable, what is not under the grant regulations. We also have our indirect guide, both for calculating indirect and then also if you're planning on using indirect for your financial match. And we have that guidance that we reviewed for salaried positions. I also want to note that the Chancellor's Office did confirm for us that they will not be providing the details that are typically in the footnotes for the allowable and unallowable section of the RFA. The numbers are still there, but the text is not going to be provided for the footnotes. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to our fiscal team. We're more than happy to support and answer any questions. Next slide, please. And I do just have here our fiscal team's contact information. Of course, myself, our grant project coordinator, our accountant does a tremendous amount of work to support all of our K12 SWP awardees. Her contact information is there. And of course, our wonderful K14 TAP is also part of our fiscal team. So please feel free to reach out to our full team. We recommend also including your pathway coordinator, and we'll provide whatever support is needed. So thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you, Gray. Really appreciate all your help, and thank you all for the pieces you've done so far. At this point, I think you all deserve a 5-minute break. We're going to go off camera for 5 minutes. You might hear some chill music, and we'll come back. We've got 2 more big sections. As I said, the next one is about labor market information, some regional priorities, some orientation around regional priorities, and some other data tools. And then we'll come back from after the second section. We'll do our breakouts in community college groups. So I'm gonna stop sharing and you go off camera and we'll come back at, I have 12:02, we'll come back at 12:07. Thanks so much. Welcome back. I think people are going to start trickling in again and turning their cameras on again. I know that's a lot to absorb. We want to give you all the facts, all the tools, and make sure you're well equipped. And all of the links you saw will be sent out, as you've heard people say. So you'll get the links to everything that's on the Chancellor's Office site, all the RFA pieces. You'll get the links to our Round 8 hub. And and of course, you've got this recording itself. And even better, if you are here in person on this Zoom, not in person, but if you're on the Zoom, thanks to the LARC team working furiously behind the scenes in the last hour, you will also get a gift card for Grubhub so that we know that you're working through lunch right now. And so if you are here with us right now, you will see in your email in the next hour a Grubhub gift certificate come to you that should cover your lunch. So, we appreciate you taking out this big chunk of your workday. We know that CTIG deadline is today. We know that there's a lot of other things that demand your time. So, yeah, so thanks and enjoy that and stay tuned for the next step. It's my pleasure to give the spotlight back to Dr. Narnig McEachin, who is going to go over a little bit more about what we're up to here in the region. Thank you, Dr. McEachin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. So if we could go, perfect. So this section will focus on the LA regional priorities and labor market information. In this RFA, aligning with LA regional priorities and labor market information is not optional. It is essential. Without grounding our proposals in labor market data, projects risk funding pathways that do not lead to high demand, high wage jobs, undermining both student success and regional economic mobility. LMI provides the evidence base to justify investments, close equity gaps, and ensure accountability to Vision 2030 and state priorities. Simply put, proposals that fail to demonstrate strong alignment with regional priorities and labor market demand will not be competitive for funding. So the next slide, please. So just a quick LARC introduction. And then after I do my piece, I will turn it over to Luke Meyer from COE, and he'll provide a more in-depth analysis of the labor market data. So if we could go to the next slide. Just a brief overview for those of you that may be new to this space. LARC is a consortium that brings together 19 community colleges across 11 community college districts in LA County. And our mission is to bridge the gap between LA's workforce and employers by providing accessible, efficient, and responsive workforce training. We collaborate with four-year universities, K12 partners, high road employers, and priority industry sectors align impactful curriculum and workforce training programs by creating a seamless pathway for college and career readiness. So this collaboration aims to increase economic and social mobility for LA County residents. We can go to the next slide. And so the LARC regional plan is basically our roadmap, our blueprint. And it is essential for aligning educational initiatives such as the K12 strong workforce with labor market needs and regional priorities. This is mandated in accordance with Education Code. This plan guides funding decisions by ensuring that K12 applications support career technical education pathways that match the workforce demand of the region. Ultimately, the LARC regional plan serves as a strategic framework to make sure that the projects funded through the Regional Community College Strong Workforce and K12 Strong Workforce effectively prepare students for high demand, well-paying jobs that meet the needs of Los Angeles' diverse economy. So we could go to the next slide. As it relates to the LARC regional plan, our strategic planning process is threefold. So collaboration. The LARC regional plan was developed with engagement and support from community colleges, K12 partners, industry partners, faculty, administrators, and staff. The LARC priority sectors align with those of our partners, including regional workforce boards, the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation, also known as LAEDC, and the UCLA Anderson Forecast. in this year's annual update, we also incorporated alignment with the K16 Collaborative, LA 2028 Games, and other major sporting events, as well as recovery efforts as we rebuild after the fires, ensuring that our strategies remain responsive to both current and emerging regional priorities. We are also data informed. The LARC plan is grounded in robust data-driven approach, featuring labor market analysis and alignment both with state and regional goals in accordance with WIOA guidelines. This year, we updated the plan. We also highlighted how each of the priority sectors addresses the California Jobs First initiative, as well as growing influence of artificial intelligence and automation on the workforce. Lastly, we're really centered around flexibility. The regional plan was designed with the flexibility to adapt to emerging opportunities and challenges, guided by continuous improvement and feedback loop. While the LARC regional plan is formally updated every 4 years, it is renewed annually to remain responsive to regional changes. The consortium will also conduct annual stakeholder reviews to gather input and ensure the plan's continued relevance and effectiveness. Okay, go to the next slide. So equity is the core of all the work that we do. So we center our work around equity for both our community college and K12 strong workforce initiatives. Our regional plan is intentionally aligned with the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office Vision 2030 framework and the California CTE State Master Plan. By embedding equity goals and metrics throughout, we are ensuring that every student, regardless of their background, has access to the support and opportunities needed to thrive. At the heart of our plan is a deep commitment to student success driven by equity. Next slide, please. All right, and we covered the priority sectors in the beginning, but I'll just quickly highlight a few additional points. As the primary engine of social and economic mobility in the region, LA County's 19 community colleges and K12 LEAs are critical partners in ensuring that residents, youth, and adult alike has access to education programs that meet the needs and propel them towards success in high growth, high wage industries. Grounding in data analysis from our centers of excellence, LARC has identified 8 priority sectors to guide our investments over the next 4 years: advanced manufacturing, advanced transportation and logistics, business and entrepreneurship, global trade, energy, construction and utilities, health, information, communication technologies, digital media, life sciences, biotechnology, retail, hospitality, and tourism. These sectors were chosen to ensure strong pathways into industries with high wage, high growth potential for students. In addition, the Strong Workforce K12 initiative requires all LEAs applying for funding to align their projects with LARC priority sectors, reinforcing our collaborative focus on preparing students for meaningful careers. This year's plan also emphasizes overarching initiatives in artificial intelligence and climate action, recognizing their transformative impact across every sector. By embedding these cross-cutting priorities into our work, we are ensuring that students are prepared not only for today's opportunities, but also for the future of work in a rapidly changing economy. Next slide, please. This slide just highlights the depth and scope of data that's captured in the regional plan. This is just an example of this healthcare sector. The plan provides comprehensive details across all 8 industry sectors, including a deep analysis of key occupations, projected annual job openings aligned with community college programs to strengthen workforce readiness. It also reflects alignment with California Jobs First initiative and the integration of artificial intelligence as a cross-cutting priority shaping the future of work. Next slide, please. These are our strategic directions. So the LARC regional plan is built around 2 key priorities: actions of equitable academic success and actions for equitable workforce and economic development. As it relates to equitable academic success, our focus is on strengthening student pathways and expanding opportunities. This means early college credit, dual enrollment, and K14 CT pathways, while also leveraging generative AI to enhance the student experience. We are also increasing access through our baccalaureate degree offerings that align to workforce needs, supporting justice-involved and at-promise youth, expanding services for veterans, boosting employer engagement, applying credit for prior learning, and providing flexible, high-quality hybrid and online learning modalities. On the equitable workforce and economic development, we are committed to improving social and economic mobility through apprenticeships, work-based learning, and stronger employment outcomes. We are ensuring colleges remain responsive to employers' immediate training needs, advancing climate action initiatives to meet regional goals, investing in faculty development collaboration, and capacity to sustain this work. Together, these strategies position LARC to expand opportunity, drive equity, and prepare our students for success in high growth, high wage careers. And now I'll turn it over to Luke Meyer for the labor market information.
Thank you, Dr. McKeegan, and hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. As I was preparing all this, I realized we did this same thing exactly 1 year ago today, on September 5th of last year. And I just want to reassure everyone in the room that you, with LARC's team, you are in great hands. So depending upon the scope of your project, the area you're focused in, I know that between them and our office, we can provide the data you need to support your application. So at the COE, we provide data on the labor market. We assess labor market needs for reviewing existing career ed programs, for investing in new programs, and also applying for grants such as those with SWP and others. And we're located all throughout the state. We have 9 regional centers to support our 116 community colleges, as well as our statewide director in Sacramento, Laura Coleman. This is our region that we serve in the LA basin. The 19 community colleges here. We're hosted at Mount San Antonio College there in 15 in Walnut, and you can see all of the colleges here from all the way out in Santa Monica down to Long Beach to LA City and everything in between. So today what I'd like to do is we're going to start broad and then get a little bit more specific as we move through. We'll look at the job situation in LA compared to California. We'll drill down a little bit deeper into industries, and then we'll get into some key occupations. So getting down to the most detailed level. And then really what I'd like to do is spend some time going through some different resources that we have for you that are available online, different reports and dashboards, so that depending upon the scope of your project, you can locate a report or data that is most applicable. And then if we have time, we can do some questions, but if not, I'll share my contact information and you can always reach out to our office. So diving right into it, looking at LA County, we always look at a 5-year projection period. That's about the time that it takes for faculty to start up a program or have an idea for one, to students enrolling, to completing, and then entering the labor market. So if you can see there in 2024 in LA, we're looking at just over 5.2 million jobs, which is a quarter of all jobs in California. And over the next 5 years, job growth is projected to grow by 3% in LA, 5% in California. This is fairly typical, where LA lags a little bit behind the state, but comprising a quarter of all jobs, it is very important to the state's economy. The last column you see there is the number of job openings. So that takes that job growth, and it also includes replacement jobs. So anytime someone moves out of the area, retires, change jobs, there's an annual job opening, and that is just under 640,000 per year, obviously dispersed among health occupations, IT occupations, and public safety. I will say that job projections are, as we look historically through our growth through COVID and coming out of COVID, not as bright going into COVID, and then coming out of COVID, very bright, and things have sort of leveled off. The BLS reported their monthly jobs report today, with the economy at a nation adding just over I think 20,000 jobs, a slower pace than average. So while there is growth projected over the next 5 years, it is not as rapid as previous years coming out of the pandemic. And so this slide kind of shows you where we started. This looks at the last 2 decades. So from 2003 to 2023, we have 2 lines here, the blue represented by California and the orange in LA. And you can see that these trends largely mirror each other, with California slightly above the growth rate of LA. This is all benchmarked to 2003. So as you can see, kind of steady growth leading up to the Great Recession, and then some dips in both labor markets as we come out of it and lead all the way up to the period of COVID-19. You can see a pretty precipitous drop in both employment numbers in LA and California. And as we kind of came out of it for the first year with all the stops and starts, some moderate growth, and then really ramping up into 2022. And then in 2023, you can see that the growth from 20 years ago is 19% higher for California, just over 11% in LA. And these figures essentially in the state have surpassed pre-pandemic levels, and in LA, just right around, hovering around the same, with more recent data suggesting that jobs have been recovered. Now, this, I know there's a lot on this slide, so I'm going to leave it here for a moment. This looks at all of our major industry sectors by the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS. The blue bars that you see there are the size of industry. So in 2024, we saw the largest industry in LA was related to healthcare, accounting for just under 900,000 jobs. This is nearing the point where it's almost 20% of the labor market. It's about 17 or 18. So we can almost say that 1 in every 5 jobs in LA County is related to healthcare in some way. And on down the line from public employment and government, with a lot of us here in state-funded education, as well as some county hospitals and others, is the next largest. Accommodation and food services, that relates to restaurants, entertainment, and some hospitality, hotels, and whatnot. If you see the other number in green or in red, that's how many jobs are projected to be added in all of these industries over the next 5 years. So if you take healthcare, for example, at the top there, not only the largest industry, but also projected to add the most jobs over the next 5 years. So I would say a very safe bet with our aging population, as we continue to need registered nurses, physicians, LVNs, medical assistants, everyone in that sector. Where you see red, that is an industry that is projected to contract or shrink over the next 5 years. I point out manufacturing specifically there, shedding jobs over the next 5 years, which has been a long-standing trend. But there are various manufacturing industries, such as apparel, which accounts for a lot of these job losses, food manufacturing, beverage manufacturing. But a bright spot within manufacturing would be related to aerospace and defense contracts, from SpaceX to Northrop Grumman and others working in that space, which has grown. So that is a broad figure across all manufacturing sectors, but of course, certain areas are more of a priority. And you can see on down the line the relative size of all industries. So this gives you an idea of where jobs are concentrated and where we're going to see growth over the next 5 years. So as we work through this funnel, the next step is to look then at occupations. So what people do, from our registered nurses to our police officers, firefighters, IT technicians, and others. At our community colleges, we focus specifically on middle skill occupations, those that typically require more than a high school diploma, but less than a bachelor's degree. So, we're not training the lower end occupation, hostesses, dishwashers, things of that nature. And we're also not training the highest skill physicians, surgeons, physicists, and others. So we focus primarily on the middle skill labor market. And the good news with that is that is a large portion of the labor market. What we see here is breaking out all of the 5.2 plus million jobs in LA County by what is required typically for education. So you see there's about a fifth of all jobs at 21% that don't require any formal education. These would be the lower skill jobs. The largest portion at 38% is jobs that require a high school diploma and oftentimes some vocational training or industry certification beyond that. And on down the line from our community college jobs that require an associate degree or a certificate to baccalaureate jobs, about a quarter of the labor market. And so to simplify this, we break this into 3 different skill levels: that above middle skill, and below middle skill. And there is a significant portion of jobs in LA County that we can be preparing our students for. And so taking an example, without going through all of the 8 priority sectors in detail, we'll look at ICT and digital media. What we have done is look at all the middle skill occupations associated with that sector, and then applied a sort of a prioritization of those based on average annual job openings here, and then also some wage information. So you see one of the top IT jobs is related to computer user support specialists that only requires some college or no degree. This is a great fit for our community college students. And as you see on down the line, there are several jobs in entertainment and others that require a bachelor's degree, but there are folks working in these occupations that have less than that. Generally, if there's about a quarter to a third that have less than a bachelor's degree, that is a signal that employers are willing to hire someone based more on their skill set than their degree or credential. So you see a good mix here of IT jobs, from the computer user support specialists to the network computer systems administrators, network support specialists, network architects, and then several here in entertainment. And these are sorted by the number of job openings, because we want to prepare our students for occupations where there's ample job opportunity. Now, looking at the wages for those occupations, another way to prioritize them, you can see that the occupations in IT here related to network support, network architects, administrators, command some of the highest wages. We break these out into 3 buckets, where we look at the 25th percentile wage, meaning of all computer network architects in LA, there's 1 earning less than $52.83 per hour at entry, and there are 3 earning more than that. The median wage, which is right in the middle, you can see computer network architects there at just under $66, and those at the higher end at $80 per hour. This yellow dotted line signifies the living wage standard for a single adult with no children in LA County, which is currently set at $24.03 per hour. That covers living expenses from rent, housing costs, transportation, food, groceries, and things of that nature. So you can see all of the occupations that we selected as a priority in this sector pay above that living wage standard at entry, and you can see fairly significant wage growth. Some of these with a large range from entry to experience, some more restricted. So computer user support specialists, a very plentiful job, pays above this living wage, but folks even at the higher end cap out at $40 per hour. So if our students get an education that prepares them for this, they could transition to something in network support that would pay them higher wages. A little bit more broad here with our student employment outcomes. We look at how students fare after leaving their programs. The most recent data we have in Data Vista on median annual earnings for our students exiting programs, you can see leading the way in public safety at just under $63,000 per year. That's above that living wage threshold. We get a lot of skills builders in this, whether they're police officers, firefighters coming back to get a EMT certification or paramedic or something along those lines. And then those that we're focused on here with ICT and digital media, you see slightly lower wages on average. A couple things going on. There's a lot of gig work involved in digital media. So students might be earning great wages, but might not be as consistently employed. Again, this is a broad swath across these sectors. On the right, you can see all these sectors weighted by 4 specific metrics: the size of the program, the number of students, the median change in earnings, so what students were earning before to after, and then the portion of students earning a living wage, and the percent that report working in a job closely related to their field of study. So these are students that are using their education. You can see that our ICT digital media sector has the most students at over 60,000, followed by business and entrepreneurship, some more niche areas related to life sciences and biotech, smaller programs, but then when you look at how students fare upon completing them, they're nearly doubling their wages from before to after. And you see public safety has the largest portion. 6 out of every 10 students are earning a living wage. And then you see how many students are working in their field of study, with health programs leading the way, which is somewhat not surprising, given that a lot of these programs for respiratory therapy, RNs, LVNs, they're specifically trained for a licensing exam to get employment in that. Versus some of our broader programs in, say, business or something along those lines. So again, this is how our students are faring in the labor market. And now what I'd like to do is share some resources with everyone. After this, I'll put my slides into the chat, so you have all of these hyperlinks that you can view. But I want to start off with a few dashboards, one developed by California EDD. That's the Employment Development Department. This is an award-winning dashboard on supply and demand, some COE supply and demand dashboards that might be better suited for some of your projects, and then some different reports that we have, like the regional plan that everyone has mentioned is linked here, as well as some sub-regional reports that break up LA County into 6 discrete regions. But starting off, I just want to demonstrate really quickly how to use some of these things. So this is the EDD supply and demand dashboard. You can look at various things from the online job ads to job openings to the size of completions at the post-secondary level. So this is a very broad overview of California, showing where the online job advertisements are largest. You can see LA accounting for the most. But as you get down to, say, the focus of your particular project, you can look into, sorry, just tweak there, the supply by occupation. So this would show, you can select all your different occupations here. Let's say you are focused on something in health and you are looking at registered nurses. You would select that occupation. There's over 800 occupations in this, and you would select the LA Basin. So what we can see here is that the largest educational program is related to RN preparation, registered nursing. They have all of their completers put into middle skill awards, which are particularly from our community colleges, as well as some higher skill bachelor's degrees and above. In the most recent year, we see 5,300 completions. So that tells us the size of a lot of these programs compared to, you can get into the demand for these. So again, if you wanted to look at, say, registered nursing, and you wanted to look in our region, this is a good way to see one job, online job advertisements for this occupation, the number of job openings. They do a 10-year long-term projection. So essentially, you would divide this by 10, yielding 5,600 job openings per year, and some different wage data. So this is an interesting supply and demand dashboard that you can go through. As we talk about certain initiatives in the area, we developed a fire recovery dashboard related to the Eaton fires and Pacific Palisades fires. And essentially what we did is looked at the supply and demand for certain occupations focused on rebuilding efforts. So we looked at projections for these occupations as they were, which we had called pre-fire demand, and then fire-related demand, which some reports have estimated upwards of 59% of the demand is projected to increase. So you have different occupations here, from electricians and carpenters, how many job openings are going to be projected in the region, as well as the related supply. And you can see in a lot of these trades, the job openings vastly outweigh the number of completions. We looked at all awards and institutions within a 100-mile radius of these fires. And so you can see some of those programs and which sort of which colleges they're located at in this dashboard related to community college programs. And you can, of course, filter this by specific occupations. So if you were starting a program related to electricians, you could find them in here and look specifically at where the programs are and how many awards they're issuing. So this is a useful dashboard if you're looking at fire recovery. And I just want to share one more dashboard that you can use depending upon the focus of your program. This is related to occupational demand data that we collected, and you can filter all of this. We have data on almost 800 occupations. You can filter by LA County, where we're all located. And then what's nice about this is you can then dive into some of these either career clusters done by Perkins or our community college sectors. So again, if you were to look, let's say at any energy, construction, and utilities, this automatically filters the occupations in LA County by the number of job openings, wages, and you can sort these fields to see, hey, I want to see the jobs where there is the highest demand. And so you see some of these lower skilled jobs like construction laborers, the annual openings, you have carpenters, electricians. So this is a good way to focus if your project's on construction or if it's on health, something like that. You can see some of the most in demand occupations. And then if you wanted to look at only those jobs that were middle skill, because this includes everything, you can see those here. And then last thing, we have two dashboards related to supply. Sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot out at you, but this shows where our programs are located. So if you're going to partner with a community college or institution, again, you can look by region, filter for LA, and then if you want to focus specifically on, again, ECU or health or advanced manufacturing, you can filter the results to see programs related to these sectors, as well as which colleges are issuing those awards. So again, there are a lot of tools, and depending upon the scope of your project, we can help provide you with data related to that. So this is my email address if you have questions on any of these. And like I said, I'm going to put this presentation now into the chat. And I think maybe, Mark, this is a good point to stop and see if there are any questions, or we can move on.
We have maybe just a minute for some quick questions. Thank you for putting that was amazing, and thanks for putting your contact info in there. These are powerful tools. So I'll pause for a second, see if there's some quick questions, and thank you for the presentation. We'll make sure your presentation also gets linked into the bigger one, the framing one. I'm not seeing hands, so.
Oh wait, I don't know how to, let's see.
Oh. Harmony, do you have a question?
Thank you. I've got two screens and I'm like, how do
I know.
Thank you so much. So I heard the part that it's okay if we are expanding our grant and that, we should mention that. Is that frowned upon? Is that okay?
But this is not a Luke particular question. We can go, no, it's not. I mean, I think what you heard was just, I think Audrey mentioned it and it's in the RFA, like they can't be duplicative, right? So you can't just say we're going to keep it cutting and it's not the cut. We want to avoid the cutting and pasting. Yes, I think everybody from the chancellor's office down is looking for ambition. How can we create new pathways in these priority sectors that we talked about? And expanding successful pathways are also fundable, right? And then where you're going to want to look at, not just you, I'm not directing this to you, of course, but where applicants will want to look through Gray's material is, if you're talking about expanding, have we funded a position already? And how does that, how is this new proposal different, and how can we, we don't want to be funding the same things, especially personnel. So yeah, do dive into Gray's and do come to office hours if you want to get into the nitty gritty on your specific needs and pathways and so on, come to the office hours, and we'd be happy to like help think it through and go deeper into that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay, thank you all. We're going to go on to Rachel from West Ed for the next segment, and then we're to the top of the hour, and then we'll have another break and do some breakouts.
Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to share my screen. One moment here. Okay, so for those that were here last year, same date as Luke shared, we are going to share the data tool that was created for LARC to kind of synthesize some of the plethora of LMI that's out there for you all to kind of have a one-stop shop. The detail that Luke shared is super important, especially if you have an idea of what your occupations are. It can give much more detail. This data tool was designed so that you all would have kind of a beginning place to start, and also a one source that you could create some maps. And I'll show you what we've done with some of those in the past. So again, thanks for having me. I think we just have a few minutes today, and so I want to cut to the chase here. Again, we wanted to make sure that we had something that you all were using to develop some of the applications using LMI. Some of you have different levels of use and also comfort with LMI. So this is really meant to get everyone kind of on the same page. So before we move on, these are the sectors that we have in the tool itself. So I encourage you all to kind of get a focus. It's easier to demonstrate the tool if you all have something specifically you're looking for. So here they are. And we are going to then focus. Again, I'm just going to show you where to access it, how to use it as quickly as possible. But again, there's a guide that's available on LARC's website, and I'll make sure that you have the tools. And I know Mark has some of that in the hub as well. I am curious though, before we move on, just because we're kind of coming in wondering about the use of LMI for you all as K12 educators. So I'd be curious, what information do you wish that you had that you don't have yet that would help you kind of strengthen your program and help you strengthen the applications themselves? Could you take a moment to just put those in the chat? It would be very helpful for us to keep our eye on the needs. And Mark or someone else, I'm not able to see the chat right now. So if you could help me, if there's any responses that are coming in that would be of note, I would.
It's a little slow right now, but yeah, I'll alert you too.
I've been a teacher long enough to know I can wait.
Right, can you repeat the question about the needs one more time?
It's on the screen. It's what information do you wish you had? Labor market information. So that would be employment outcomes, skills, demand, anything that you think would help strengthen your decision-making and the programs that you have. Now that you saw Luke, so you're probably like, I have it all. We have everything we need.
In the chat is a little quiet, but
okay, we're gonna keep. All right, you waited me out, and I don't have much time, so here we go.
Minimum age requirement has just come in.
Okay, great.
And if a student graduates from high school or college with a certification or degree, what's the likelihood they get a job in that field? That's another one.
Wonderful. Okay, moving on to what is in here. We usually start all of our projects with the same kind of central question, which is, what does it take to be self-sufficient? Luke used the same self-sufficiency standard as we've been using, and definitely welcome you all to level set with your colleagues about this too. Sometimes we aren't always familiar with what it costs to actually afford to live where we live. So I would be curious what you all have in the top of your mind, but I will not wait for responses. But Luke shared the hourly wage for one adult, no children. We also, the data tool that we have linked, that the same source as Luke again used, has a lot of data in there around what specifically with different scenarios of family kind of configurations. including having 2 children, 2 parents, or 2 adults working, etc. If we think about those jobs that actually pay those living wages, that's really where we get kind of some of the tools that we've been working through in terms of how do we make sure that students are prepared for the jobs that actually pay living wage. So we use this standard. This is again from the University of Washington, data set that they share. This is for LA County specifically, and I definitely welcome you all and encourage you to get more familiar with this self-sufficiency data. So we use this to guide the data tool itself. And also, as Luke shared, this is also used to decide which community college programs are viable or which ones should be built out based on what is actually lines up with demand. Okay, so if we move on from there, we made the tool with these outcomes in mind, which would be how do we make sure that we have a tool that can be used in curriculum development, enhancing outcomes of students. It also can provide, I know some folks in the past have used it to connect with employers and create those work-based learning centers that, those work-based learning agreements that need to be in place for students to engage with work-based learning opportunities. We also think of this as a place where people can get increased access and equity in terms of their ability to access those living wage jobs, that when more of us know about them, the more we're able to kind of support those outcomes. So this is how we built in this data tool itself. We have these different data sets that we've been able to individually connect to the sectors. So everything's connected through the CTE sectors themselves that you all are using in K12. And we then on the back end have connected some of those through the CTE sectors so that there are some connections between the SOC, which is the labor market data on the employer side, and the top or SIP codes on the college or university side. So you all will have, many of your programs are in there. Again, I'll say a little bit more about where the data came from and how often it's been updated. But the idea being that we are meant to kind of see some broad brushstrokes in this data tool so that you all can see kind of what's out there. So the system that creates connections between all the data points is through an occupational title filter. So we've created that filter so that when you see a sector, you're aligning with the programs related to college options, the bachelor's degree pathways, and then the labor market data. The intent being that there are some, they're not all one-to-one, but there is some definite connection points that we think you can build on and get a picture of what a longer pathway might look like. So we'll get into the tool itself. I'm going to share this in the chat. This is hosted on LARC's website. Here we go. And there's also this QR code if you want to connect that way. And this is the kind of map that we have seen designed. There's many different use cases, but if today you want to think about how you might build out a more robust, in this case, we use Bellflower High School's production and managerial arts as an example. And the idea was that we would be able to find a tool that would help you both create a broad brushstroke of what options exist for students in a broad sector, as well as this data could be used to create a discrete map for a specific occupation. It really depends on what you all want and need to help support your students, as well as kind of the other uses that we spoke about. We're gonna walk through a very quick version of this so you all know where all the filters are. But I want to just make an important note about some of the things that come up around the data section as far as the sources. If you see a dashboard that or any of the results that say no data, it's because there isn't data that fits the criteria. And you can either select more options in the filter or unselect some filters. So you can either broaden your search or make it more specific. This is all public data, so it relies on those official crosswalks from NCES and Centers of Excellence we used as well. And each of the data sets have differing years. So you're going to see some that are 22, 23. We have older data for CDE and the high school pathways. it also isn't necessarily going to have all the emergent skills and programs. To Luke's point, it does take a while to create a program in the community college space, but you're going to want to check in with their college partner if there's emerging skills that you want your students to line up with at the college level. Okay, so you all chose a sector, so we're going to get started here. The first filter you're going to use is this career cluster filter, the one at the top here. And this one's going to be the important one to overlap all the other data. So when you do that, you're going to see a drop-down menu that will have a number of those pathways we talked about at the beginning of this. And then you're going to first see the jobs that require entry-level qualifications here. So you're going to choose a school and pathway filter, and that's going to lead you to these entry-level jobs. So the next filter will be the level of education. You can select for your education level here, depending on what you want to do from this list. You're going to see for the first level will be the ones that require no formal education or a high school diploma, a non-degree or post-secondary degree that is non-credit, or those jobs that require some college but not a degree. We all on the same page so far? Okay. All right, so once we move out of that first filter, you're going to want to, each of these levels, you're going to want to have a moment to reflect either with your team or with students about what you think is most viable here. As you can see, this data tool is not meant to be forward facing as far as students. We don't think, although some folks have been using that in like a get focused, stay focused curriculum or other career exploration. But we think that it's best used when it's being curated with some adults and people that can help students make some meaning out of it. So from that list, you're going to want to identify the kind of occupations that stand out in terms of wages and growth. It's also the jobs that Luke pointed out, that you're going to see some of that data in the data tool itself. So you can use some of that to understand where's the growth potential in those pathways specifically. Okay, so then the next section is going to be, you can choose your specific SOC code. So this is going to be the area that you can see specific occupations and see the kind of job titles that are connected to that area, that are connected with the last slide of those entry-level education. The next level is the one around the certificate and degrees at the community college level. So this is going to be that next level on that kind of tree where there's some degrees and certificates that are required, and we're going to basically repeat the same steps. All of these are the same steps, but with some different maybe questions in mind about what you actually curate on that list or that you're actually using with your students. So you're creating a kind of a realistic pathway for your young people. So again, we're going to stop and reflect and see which ones you have partnerships where you've already have articulated dual enrollment, et cetera. And you're going to make notes of those colleges so that you can, again, make some meaning as we connect to the next level of those middle skill jobs. Again, you can filter for specific programs, so you can see requirements of each of the colleges on this data tool as well, and the kind of programs that they have available. Again, if you've chosen a sector, you're going to see just those. You can also see all the programs if you want to see everything that the college was offering that we have in the data tool. So same idea here is that you're going to look at the certificate programs that are connected. You're going to find those and use those kind of steps to apply those technical careers. The middle skill jobs here, and then the associate's level jobs that are lined up with those degrees. So that's that third level. And then we also included the jobs that are related to those. And again, there is some filters that can tell you which ones are both middle skill and paying living wage. So you can filter out the ones that are not at that threshold. So you want to, you can choose degrees here on the occupation, the associate's degree filter. if there's specific degrees that you want, including ADTs, because this tool is also meant to identify transfer pathways that exist in the system. And then those, you can make those same notes about where you think you have partnerships with those colleges. Again, we know that there are some stronger and existing partnerships that you're going to want to leverage. You're also going to see if there's programs that are not at those colleges, and you're going to be able to see which colleges do have those programs. And then you're going to be able to see some of those by the program filter as well. So you can look to each of the colleges again and see which the associate's degree. And then the next level will be about the bachelor's degree. So you can filter for just the bachelor's degree. You can see the jobs that are associated with having a bachelor's degree. And then you can also filter for specific occupations that are those higher wage and higher growth jobs. We also, as requested by LARC, we included all the bachelor's degrees in the state, both public and private, so that if you have any kind of enrollment patterns that you've noticed with your students outside of LA County, you can look for other colleges and universities that have those programs. And again, if there's partnerships that are there, it's important note to make, both local and those that are outside of the region. And that's where you're going to get that last set of occupations from that filter. And think about those jobs that will both get that last piece in order here with the bachelor's degree programs. They can give the student a longer kind of arc to their journey. The other piece is just making, I know you all have learning outcomes that are associated with your programs. We think this is a really good time to identify and highlight those for students to see that they already have skills in these occupational areas, and give them some more confidence about their ability to explore at multiple kind of educational levels. So feel free to do that. We have that same tree in a template. If you're interested in that, I will share that with Mark and the team, so you can use that or whatever else you feel is helpful for students to envision. We've had people do them around a particular, again, set of occupations, and we've also seen more sector and broad-based kind of mapping that can help students see their futures and more inclusive ways. We also included the ONET skills. You're going to see there's a hyperlink for every job on there that goes to ONET specifically. But then we used a kind of a synthesis so that there would be a way for you to see the common skills that are underlying multiple occupations. And there's going to be none that are probably new or going to be the ones that you're not anticipating. What I think that it does mostly is it able to see how many of the skills are actually required across multiple jobs, and that also opens up an opportunity for students to have those skills reinforced in multiple courses and programs, even across the school or a pathway. And beyond that, there is, again, there's those hyperlinks to ONET that I mentioned just a moment ago. If you want to go to that, you could use those for students to dig in more deeply about what occupations are and what they pay, and the kind of required educational levels. I think we just talked about that in terms of skills, and making sure that those skills are really understood by students to make those connections between what they know and what they will be learning in the future. So that's how we have designed the Opportunity Map Builder. There is a tool in that same link. You'll see at the very top, there's a manual kind of that we created, so you all can replicate this at back at your home schools. And there's also a couple of those templates that are included there as well. I don't think I've ever done it quite that quickly, but I hope that you all got a snapshot of what we're doing here, and how it can help you strengthen your applications for this round. So I appreciate you, Mark, for inviting me, and hope it's useful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I know you'll share your slides, and we'll attach them to the main slideshow. You've already given us the link in the chat. to the dashboard, which, as you said, is incredibly powerful. And as you've shown us, it's not only helpful in the grant writing period, but as you're accompanying students on their pathways, whatever your role, right? As a CTE teacher, as a counselor, and so on. So this is very flexible, deep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would like to hear how you're using it as well. That we're still collecting kind of our success stories and the areas that we can keep growing in, so that we can make it better every time it gets updated.
Okay.
Thank
Fantastic.
you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I'll share my screen again, and I will. We're going to take another quick break, just to let everybody either receive their Grubhub delivery or take a bio break, stretch your legs, your arms, grab a snack, whatever you need to do. It is 1:02 now, so we'll come back at 1:07, and we'll kind of wrap things up, but also prep you for that final section, which is the breakout rooms in your college area. So let's go on break now. Feel free to turn your cameras off, and we'll see you at 1:07. Thank you. We'll start welcoming people back. Perfect. Okay, before we leave you to break out, we wanted to do a few things. Just a few really quick wrap up and reminder items. So William Hicks, do you want to take it away from here? Oh, you're muted still, William.
That helps.
Yes.
Yeah, so just as a review and a quick snapshot of what we've already spoken about, these slides are just going to review the key dates that were discussed earlier, including the office hours and the K12 round 8 information. You may scan the QR codes for any additional details that you may need that will link you back to the website. Next slide, please. This slide, it just provides an overview of the key talent pathway coordinators for each college, along with their contact information, including mine. It actually gives you the information according to your college that pertains to you. Next slide, please. So you're welcome to join our monthly convenings. They're going to be held on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, except for the month of December. These are just the LARC meetings that will that follow this schedule on these dates that are listed for these months. You'll also see that there's a link that's down there on the calendar that also links back to the site on key dates, as well as the mailing list that you can sign up for that will also get you on the mailing list for these monthly convenings. Next slide, please. And if you can just, give us your feedback, it will be greatly appreciated. So please just take just 2 kind minutes just to take the survey, just to provide your input and support how we can continuously improve the support for you. And that's all. Back to you, Mark. You're on mute.
Comes around to bite me. Thank you all. Dr. McKeegan and I just want to really thank you all on behalf of the whole LARC team for the work you're doing and the work you're investing in, the energy you're investing in this process and in today for to build these opportunity pathways for our students. We couldn't be happier. Just to emphasize what William was sharing. This is not a once a year thing. I mean, the rounds are annual, but just know that, even after the deadline, you're welcome to come to our monthly convenings. Their K12 Strong Workforce monthly convenings are a great chance to find out how to get integrated into the region in a more substantial way. We have always have not only reminders about where we are in the RFA process and where we are in grant deadlines and reporting deadlines, but also bring in other resources, outside resources, people and organizations that could be helpful and inspiring to you as you're growing your programs. So we hope to see you at those monthly meetings. And then the LARC calendar goes above and beyond that. It has lots of things, lots of PD opportunities for you and your teams. So whether it's on the AI task force or other kinds of things, there's always stuff happening and you are welcome. We welcome you. You can always use that opportunity as a way of sharing out resources you've developed with your districts and LEAs. So once again, thank you. Before we turn it over, please do take the time to fill out the feedback survey. We'd love to hear your honest feedback about today and about the whole funding process. So please do make that time. And I'll give it back to you, Will, to send us to our rooms.